It's a really tough time. We're all in confinement during COVID-19, and I know you're a person of faith and a lot of wisdom, and there are a lot of people out there that are anxious, that are fearful, and so I was wondering if maybe you had a message for them.
It's such a test for all of us, and I think one of the things that we need to remind ourselves of is to have faith in ourselves. So I think that we need to have faith that we can withstand this, that we can make it through this, that we can keep our sanity, that we can keep our discriminative wisdom going, that we can make intelligent decisions moving forward. And it's difficult right now because so much of that has been taken away from us. There are so many decisions we can't make for ourselves anymore. And there are, of course, decisions that are made by experts that we really need to comply with. If we don't, it's just willful ignorance to not. So there are those things, and there is the self-isolation. I'm so lucky because I've been meditating for almost 40 years. I spent 3.5 years in a meditation retreat, and so this is relatively easy for me. But I know that for people who don't have the background or the training, the mind training to meditate and to be able to have techniques to really to work with instead of constant involvement in the worries and the concerns and the anxieties and the fear.
Do you have like a very simple method, a simple practice that you think would help people that are having difficulty with this situation?
Actually, we do have very, very simple techniques. And one of them is to recognize when things are building up for you in your mind, and when emotional things are building up for you. And take that opportunity when they are to turn your attention to something else as soon as you recognize it, just the snap of a finger, and turn your attention to your breath. First of all, it feels very centering, and second of all, when you get back to the emotion, you sort of cut its energy so that it's not so strong. So always having that backup of saying, okay, I don't need to thoroughly and totally and completely engage in this, which isn't making me feel good and is not making anyone else feel good. I can actually turn my attention to my breath. I can center myself. I can breathe, take a few deep breaths, and then I can turn my attention back when I've settled a little bit.
What do you recommend people do during this COVID-19? What people should not do in terms of, helping the universe, the energy, the world, like any recommendations for our own self to not create more problems?
Well, first of all, don't become part of the problem. Becoming part of the problem means taking chances with your own health and taking chances with the health of others. That's being part of the problem. So if we can avoid that, that's a gigantic first step. And knowing that we are in isolation or we are sheltering in place in order to make it better for others, it's so important. And I know that it's hard to not get really localized in terms of it's all about me. You can turn your attention from yourself onto others. You can always work on sustaining gratitude, and that's also not easy. But gratitude is such a huge step towards having a positive state of mind, and that positive state of mind and that gratitude can take you through a lot of hours where otherwise, if you were thinking in terms of what you don't have instead of what you are blessed with, then that negative attitude can really cause some difficulties.
Now, you've probably heard that some people are locked in together with their husbands, their wives, their children, and that it's not working out so well because they've never really been together for so many hours, so many days, so many months, and it turns into anger, hate, screaming. And so what do you want to tell these people? What can they do to kind of disconnect, get their own space, maybe meditate a few minutes a day? Like what would be your message?
Meditating for a few minutes every day is always helpful, but the one thing that I think might be a little technique they can use is, if you are in a house or an apartment together with others, make a sacred space within that. Doesn't have to be more than 3 or 4 feet square. It could just be a corner of a room, but make a sacred space where if someone does not want to be approached, does not want to be spoken to, does not want to interact at all, they go to that sacred space and they sit there, and everyone else in the house or in the apartment agrees that as long as that person is in that sacred space, they will leave them completely alone. So whether it's children or parents or grandparents, whoever it is, I think that might really help the situation.
We're seeing some reaction to what's happening right now with COVID-19, where people, instead of being compassionate and caring and loving, they're getting really hateful, angry, obnoxious. They refuse to wear masks. They don't want to do social distancing. They're disrespectful, and they're doing everything against trying to make this a better place and trying to have some wisdom. And so what do you have to say to them or to us, so that we try to kind of roll back and help one another?
I'm not sure that any words can take care of that situation. I think that the tendency is to not want to learn, towards willful ignorance. If I ignore it, then it's not going to happen to me. And it is also this tendency to, instead of buckle down and see it through, to throw caution to the wind, because we're not used to being cautious. We're not used to being disciplined. We're used to getting our way all the time. When we go on the internet, we only see what we want to see. We don't have to see anything we don't want to see. We don't have to hear anything we don't want to hear. And this is a false reality. This is totally a false reality. It does not promote compassion. It doesn't promote education. It doesn't promote understanding. It promotes nothing but selfishness. And that's not going to work for us. And we're seeing that it's not working for us. But the images are there. I don't know what it takes for people if it doesn't take someone themselves or someone close to them getting sick and dying. If that's what it's going to take, then obviously they're going in the right direction for that to happen. You know, it doesn't make any sense to me. You know, when we had this country went through a world war that was horrible, and everybody buckled down, everybody made sacrifices, everybody did something for the greater good, and we've lost that. And sadly, we don't have that many people in power right now who can give us examples of how to constantly act, not for selfish reasons, but for the greater good of all. And so it's a very difficult situation, but I would just say, try to at least keep yourself safe. And if you are so self-destructive that you can't even really get enthusiastic about that, then maybe it's time to get some help, you know, some professional help.
Well, as we all know, there are a lot of people right now suffering incredibly in hospitals and dying every day. Are you putting these people in your prayers? Are you doing practices specifically for all that suffering that's happening?
Constantly. Yes, yes, I really am. We have a wonderful, beautiful practice in Tibetan Buddhism called Medicine Buddha, and it's specifically for times like this, or for anyone who is ill, or for yourself. You can do it for yourself also. I think it's one of the reasons why I love this lineage, Tibetan Buddhism, so much, is because it really does teach one through these extraordinary practices how to recognize the divine in one's own experience. You know, to recognize the beauty of being able to experience anything. It might not be what you like, but to sit back and sort of lean back into the fact that you're capable of experiencing it. And I think that that's so important in our practices, and this practice of Medicine Buddha is a very beautiful one for that. And you know, if instead you have a belief in God, in your tradition, whatever it may be, the fact that you can even think of the divinity shows that you have that divine spark yourself. I think that many people have been stripped of their faith in themselves, in their own spark of divinity, and therefore they act out with this kind of destructive behavior. So I think maybe what we need to do is get back to that and remind ourselves where we don't have to be mean. We don't have to be selfish. We can be generous. We can be compassionate. We can not become part of the problem anymore, but be part of the solution.
Another big pillar of Buddhism is karma. Can you explain karma in relation to what's going on in the world today with the virus, COVID-19 or coronavirus, and how maybe our actions as human beings may have an effect on how the world is reacting?
It totally does. It totally does. I mean, this is karma. You go to work or you work from home. Now you're working from home, right? But you do your work every day. And at the end of the week, you get a paycheck, or it, you know, is automatically goes into your bank account. That's karma. You know, that's it in a nutshell. Karma is a word that just means action or a deed, doing a deed. It's just, that's all that word means. But it refers to that there's always a cause for an action, then there's the action itself, and then there's always a result that comes from having taken that action. So that's what karma is all about. And we're all experiencing this. I mean, humanity is experiencing this en masse, because humanity en masse has not taken care of our planet. And karmically, that would be the most simplistic way to explain it. If we don't take care of our environment cannot sustain us. It's that simple, you know. And so now our environment is not sustaining us, it's actually making us ill. But it has been doing that for a long time. Cancerous things go into our soil, cancerous things go into our water. When the earth itself had places on it that were just filled with cancerous chemicals, then cancer became a really serious, horrible disease for human beings. But look at the cause, look at the action, and look at the effect. You see? So there's somewhere, and I scientifically could never tell you what that is, but certainly we here on the earth, we have, 7.5 billion people on a planet that we know can only sustain about 3.5 billion people. Do people stop having babies? No. Do you know what I mean? there has to be a computation somewhere along the line. When we go beyond what our planet can sustain, then somehow or other that balancing thing is going to come into play, I think. It seems that way to me.
If you enjoyed this interview, make sure you subscribe to the channel and press like. Let us know how you feel about some of the messages Lama has left us. Let us know if it's helping you in your daily life. Don't hesitate to visit her website at miamibuddhism.org. And if you ever have a chance to take one of her teachings, I highly recommend it. Have a wonderful day. Blessings to all of you. And hopefully we'll meet again soon.